All right, here we are at another episode of Flipping Houses for Rookies. And the number one first ever rookie of this group, Mr. Coca-Cola.
Oh, yeah. The original rookie. That's something to be proud of. Well, I'm still here. That's good.
Yeah, 242 shows later, you're still plugging away at it.
Yeah, plugging is the word. Plug. Scrambling, scraping.
Cool. Good morning, Desiree. So, episode number 242. Why rookies grow or die with finding and making real estate deals.
That sounds dire. Dire.
Now pay attention, Peter. Here we go. This might be talking to you, or maybe some of your little rookettes.
Yeah.
Truth is, in a year or two from now, you could be worth 2.5 to 25 times what you are worth as you listen to me speak right now. Or you could be worth less and have more debt. Believe it or not, the choice is yours, not somebody else's. Not how much education you have or don't have, your age, color, race, toothless, bald, fat, ugly, gay or straight, any of them. It doesn't matter. None of this will affect your chance of future wealth and success in the creative real estate arena. If you fully understand and apply the simple system we're about to reveal to you on this podcast, over the next year or two, you could double, redouble, and double again your annual income and profits from real estate. Even if the economy slows down or recession threatens to devastate this amazing and beautiful country, and the approach isn't magical or impossible, even difficult to master. Done correctly, this could seriously catapult your life past any imagined expectation. Only barrier you have at this point is doing it or not doing it correctly. It's been tested and proven enough now to show anyone could master it for like kind of results. Let's see.
Mm-hmm.
Did you tell I wrote that from my heart?
Them's mighty strong words there, Mr. Hawthorne.
I'm going to back them up right now. First thing we got to do after I get the mouthful of tea out of my mouth is we got to do all the stuff that the geeks behind the scenes hammer me about every single week, Peter. Bang, bang, bang. Don't forget, don't forget, don't forget, don't forget. Because guess what they know I'm going to do?
Well, Bill, just don't forget. Forget. If you forget, I'm going to have to start reminding you. Don't make me do that. That's their job.
Yeah, when they start calling you, we know we're in trouble.
Oh, God.
That means I'm in the last arena of like getting a whipping.
Well, you know, when people try to get in touch with you, they really can't find you and they really want you. They call me. Where's Bill? Where's Bill? You know where he is? Like, yeah, I'll find him for you.
One of the first things I had to do this morning, well, not one of the first things, when I got to my computer, because I'm getting ready to go away and I hadn't packed. And as soon as I get done with the show, I got to jump in the car because I realized I booked my flight a little earlier than I thought. Right. So my mother, 10 o'clock last night, sent out her third SOS text. Why aren't you answering me? Are you okay? Yeah, Ma, she's been in the boiling water. Consider me that frog in the boiling water, and it's starting to change. All right, anyways, Here's what happens. No matter where you're listening to us or watching us, or you found us, inside the description, you will find a link. That link will take you to my free stuff page. And on there's 25 or 26 excellent things that you can use as a seasoned investor or a rookie investor. What it has is scripts and forms and documents and all kinds of stuff. My favorite out of the whole entire list is the document called Lease Option Explained. If people that are listening to me right now went and downloaded that puppy and hand wrote it, it's like, I think 3 or 4 pages long. Hand wrote it, Peter, 10 times, they could save years off of their training on how to do this. Swear to God. It's got frequently asked questions and everything in there. Maybe it's 5 pages.
Yeah.
If they just went to the link in the description and they downloaded the Lease Option Explained, they took a notepad and hand wrote it 10 times, not in 10 days, but in 10 times, like over a course of a couple of days, they would truly, honestly get this business. They wouldn't need much more than that. But for whatever reason, not everybody listens to what I say. So there you go. Yeah. The next thing I want to say is at 9:30 a.m. every Thursday morning, Eastern Standard Time, we record this video or record this podcast, but we live stream. And then Emma, the head geek in the background, goes and takes our recordings and stuff, and she uploads them, I think, on a Sunday or something, or Monday or something like that, or whenever she does it. And she puts it on the podcast platform. So if you're listening to this through a podcast platform, that link is in the description. Last thing is like I said, every Thursday morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we are on Facebook, as I call it on my emails, Flakebook, and now I call YouTube ZooTube because it's a freaking zoo on there, man. Every time
That's a good one.
Oh no! So I call that ZooTube now. So if you want to listen to us or you want to ask questions, or there's Mom texting me back. There you go. I'm back in the good graces.
Did you answer her yet?
I answered her this morning, and she obviously just woke up. So
all right.
Just go to Flakebook or ZooTube, and you can go on there, and in the comment section or in the chat, you can ask us questions while we're recording. And when you hear me talking to people, it's because I got this big screen in front of us, and they are speaking at me, or some of them are speaking with me. So there you go. You ready, Peter?
Absolutely.
Here we go. I'm going to deliver. We got a lot to cover today. So I'm going to start off with, before I reveal my full inventory on giving you some of the most inside secrets known to the creative real estate investing arena, and this is no hype because I really mean this, I want to start off with the most obvious classified yet so simple. This is classified so simple, such a simple viewpoint that if you miss it, it's like me getting on the highway and trying to head for Florida and get on, instead of going southbound, I go northbound and end up in Maine. I mean, this is how critical this is in my mind. But yet it's so simple, people kind of like skip over it.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have to get this first. So listen to these words. I'm gonna read it twice, because it's not a play on words, but it sounds like it.
Huh.
Okay?
Yeah.
This business is not about selling your offers or your ways to get deals to sellers. It's more like selling your offers or your ways to get deals to the correct list or group of sellers. So this business is not about selling your offers or ways to get deals to sellers. It's more like selling your offers or ways to get deals to the correct list or group of sellers. Let me explain. In order to get rich in this industry, you need to go to where the hottest type of sellers are that match your available resources. So if you don't have money or you don't have the ability to get money, then you should not be trying to buy flips on the MLS.
Mm-hmm.
If you should be trying to buy for rent to own deals on Facebook under the rental section, right? So match your resources to what you can buy. Okay. Now, you don't want to fish in a pond where there are no fish, or a pond where the fish want bait that you don't have. I'll give you a quick story about this, okay?
Sure.
So we all know that my family lives in Florida, Fort Myers. My sister lives in Cape Coral. And Cape Coral, which, by the way, you know how I am. I'm kind of like a weirdo like this stuff. When I was down there during COVID and I spent so much time there, I, of course, had to like do some research. So I go to the Ford Museum in Fort Myers, which is like where Ford and Edison live. I've been there like 250,000 times. Nobody goes with me anymore because they're like, "You've already been there."
Yeah,
I'm like, so, because just like I tell you to write the lease option explain document 10 times, I think I can go to this museum 10 times and get something out of it each time I go there, right? So I happen to find this book in the bookstore, The History of Cape Coral. Right. So it starts like in 1969, guy buys like, 2,000 acres or something like that for like $60,000 or something. And they decide that they want to sell waterfront property. But there's only one little piece of waterfront property. So they decide they're going to dig canals and put all the houses on canals.
Wow. 1969?
68 or 69.
I mean, it's just, it's not that long ago, really. I mean,
well, it gets worse than that. It gets worse than that because they didn't start. They had less than 500 houses built and sold in 1988.
Oh, geez.
And then 1988 is when they got a fire department. They got the electricity in there and all, and that's when it started to take off. Now it has over 200,000. Okay, wow. So just to go show you, but it started with these canals because they wanted to sell waterfront property to the Northerners, us up here in Connecticut, right?
Yeah.
And so there's all these canals. So she lives on this canal, and in this canal, I'd be out there. You guys saw me when I was podcasting down there. I had the sun behind me and all that stuff. There's a little dock. She's got a boat dock there, and I would go down there and I would set up a table, and I had a little tent for the sun, and I'd fire up my cigar and I'd bring my laptop and I'd go to work. Well, while I was sitting there, there was like these amazing fish. I could see them. They're like a foot, 2 feet long. Some of them, they're like really, really healthy looking. I'm like, oh man, I got to catch me some of those fish. And I tell you, I fished and I fished and I fished and I fished and I fished, and I could see them. I could put the bait right in front of their face and they would like swim away. This is my example. So I'm like, okay, I got to go get some more bait. I got to get some lure or something. So I go to the tackle shop down the street, and to learn that these fish that are in the canal are vegetarian fish.
Vegetarian? Oh.
They eat plants.
Yeah.
So basically, if I wanted to catch one of these fish, I have to tie a piece of seaweed to my hook.
Wow.
Okay. So to me, that example is not any different than somebody that's brand new in the business, thinks that they're going to wholesale or thinks that they're going to go buy a flip because they watch HGTV or whatever, whichever one of those, and they're going to go do this business, and they go on the MLS. That to me is much like me trying to catch that fish with the completely wrong bait. So this approach will totally screw you up and cause you to talk to too many suspects. So the wrong list with the wrong available resources means too many suspects, right? Because think of it this way. Every person selling a house, every one of them is a suspect. I'm sorry, is a prospect. I said that wrong. Every single person selling a house is a prospect. What determines whether a suspect for you or not? It's whether or not they agree to your terms.
Sure.
If they don't agree to your terms, they are a suspect to you. They're not a suspect to the market. They're a suspect to you because they don't agree to your terms.
Right.
Okay. So knowing that, why wouldn't you match your terms or what you want to do to the best list possible? right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you talk to too many suspects, if you don't do this, which is what most investors do, because they don't think about this, and this is not what the whole show's about. This is just a preempt to get to where we're going, right? So
Sure.
the point is this: if you get the wrong bait, man, you'll be like me down in Florida with my shorts and flip flops and a cigar in my mouth, right, and a big old glass of iced tea, mother effing the fish, because I'm like, what are they doing? I don't get it, and I'm completely mystified. Right? Which is what I hear lately from a lot of my students. What are they doing? I can't stand it. I go in and I make an offer and 3 people make offers above the asking price. What are they doing? How do they make money? Well, you're on the wrong list. You're hunting the wrong place.
Mm-hmm.
That's like going in downtown Wallingford with a shotgun looking for deer. Where do you think I'm going to end up? The police station.
The police in jail. Yeah, they're not going to buy your story about deer downtown.
Right. So I bring this up because I'm hearing from my students a lot how hard it is to find deals all over the country. Okay. So, lately, I mean, for some reason, my business has grown and I'm like having trouble hanging on to it. I've got a couple coaching groups. Some are from outside of the country, some are from inside the country, all over. So I talk to a lot of people, right? So all I hear is how hot the market is. And buyers are paying, never mind the monthly payments that they're asking, but they want to get paid off in 30 days. So our students are like, well, we'll give you monthly payments. And they're like, why would I do that when I could list it on Friday and sell it on Monday?
Yeah.
Right. So why? Why is this? Well, I'll tell you. Those students that are looking for those deals and complaining about there's no houses, I can't find them, and they've fallen into the rhetoric of there's no inventory, which is the video I just sent you. It's like all they talk about is no inventory. I'm in my networking meeting the other day, right? And there's a realtor in there, okay? And he announces to the group, they've got I think 88 agents, part-time, full-time, all that kind of stuff. Last time I don't know what they have now.
Yeah.
He said normally when he has a buyer, he can go into their system, not the MLS, their system, and have a choice of 150 properties at any given day of the month. So in other words, on average of a month, he has 150 properties in inventory that they have listed.
Yeah.
Okay. He said he went in the other day, they had 3.
3.
Okay. So why is that? I'm telling you right now why that is. I'm telling you right now what that is, okay? That's because with this pandemic, there's a lot of sellers who want to sell, right? They want to sell, but they don't want people tramping through their house. They don't want to have the potential of a virus invasion in their house.
Yeah.
Okay, so that means that there's a lot of people that want to sell their house. They just aren't on the market. So we call those off-market deals.
Mm-hmm.
So what if you were to contact those off-market sellers, right, and ask them, do you want to sell? What do you think they would say?
Well, they'd be surprised that you'd be there and you're the only one there and they want to sell and you're offering to do it. They'd be pretty surprised.
So it would start off a conversation kind of like, I'm calling about the property over at 123 Main Street. Is it for sale? Right?
Yeah.
And if you buzz through enough people like that, which, by the way, we pull these lists, from PropStream, and you can get them from the town hall. And, that's what the deal hunting monthly mastery is. It's a once a month on first Wednesday of the month. I go over different strategies every month, and I teach you how to do this off-market stuff.
Yep.
Right. It's not common knowledge, but you need to look for the word is off market. So you need to get in the right group and ask the right people the right questions.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. It's kind of like selling hamburgers to a bunch of vegetarians. Suppose you went to the Javits Center in New York City and there was, 6,000 vegetarians in there, and you're walking around with one of those, trays around your neck, like in the 50s where they used to sell cigarettes and say, hamburgers, anybody want a hamburger?
Yeah.
And you've got 6,000 vegetarians around you. Like, what do you think is going to happen? You know what I mean? That's what it's like when you're looking for on market houses right now. That's what it's like. It's exactly like that scenario I just gave you, right?
Yep.
Okay. So the next thing is a lot of cowboys also figure this out too. So we're not the only ones roaming the ranges here. Okay. So nowadays, my sellers are, when I talk to them, because I talk to, an hour a day, hour and a half a day, I talk to a handful of sellers after they've been pre-sorted through the VA and then through my acquisition manager, they come to me to do the final deal structuring, right? So they're pretty cocky, right? These sellers, they're like, what's your offer? Right? I've got 5 phone calls a day. So tell me what you can do for me right now. You got 30 seconds. That's how it is. You get on the phone, right?
Yeah. I'm a little bit on the other side too, having a house for sale that's not on the market yet. And I have people that want to come. The plumber goes, oh, my buddy's looking for a house. Can he come see it? They called me yesterday. Can I come see your house?
Yeah.
It's not even on the market. I just got it pretty much cleaned up. It's like, okay.
Right. So the seller has this position or viewpoint, much like if I wanted to buy a power drill, right? Like a cordless power drill. I would go to check Home Depot. I would check Lowe's, and for those people around the country, I hope you know what these are. But Home Depot and Lowe's or any hardware store, I might check Walmart. I might go on Amazon, and I'm going to think, okay, who's got the best deal, and where should I pull the trigger and buy?
Yep.
That's what sellers act like right now. Okay. If you were a seller, you would do the same thing, wouldn't you? You just said you're a seller. You're doing the same thing. You're like, until you get what you want, you're just going to kind of keep shunning buyers off until you find the one that says bingo, right? Kind of like the prize fighter at the end. At the end of the night, you hear ding, 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 ding. It's like he just won, right? And he holds his hands up and he gets his belt, right? So, how do we get sellers' attention long enough to educate them and give them a profitable offer to them? That's the trick. And and I'm going to tell the story in a minute, but this is the trick right now. How do we get the seller's attention long enough to educate them and give them a profitable offer that nobody else can give them? That's the magic. And that's what today's podcast is about. That's my little system of doing an opening call, a closing call, and a deal meeting. But I want you to know that I actually went into both my coaching groups and I started asking some questions because I was curious. Over a course of a couple sessions, which is like 2 or 3 weeks. Okay. It's been brought to my attention that most are doing this system incorrectly, which I didn't know you could do.
Your system.
My system, they're doing it incorrectly, which I didn't know you could do. I thought it was simple enough, but I didn't know you could do it incorrectly. And I found out some interesting things. And the results are like teaching a kindergartner how to do calculus. That's what this is like. So in other words, the coaching clients are using my system incorrectly. So the results to the seller is kind of like taking a kindergartner and trying to teach them calculus. It's just too steep of a gradient. And if they don't understand, what do they say?
Oh, they say no.
No, they just say no.
Yeah, no. Yeah, if they don't get
Forcefully.
Yeah.
And when done this way, this is the biggest complaint I hear. When it's done this way, I hear sellers ghost them. Or simply put, they just cut communication when you thought you had a deal. I can't tell you how many coaching clients tell me they had a deal, they had a great conversation, and I got a deal. How do I do the next step? And then I go in and I find out that they didn't have a deal because 3 days later, when I give them the next step and they're trying to implement the next step, whatever it may be, which is usually the deal meeting section, they're like, they aren't answering me. I don't know what happened. I'm confused. We had such a good conversation. Right?
I think they thought they did.
Not good. Not good at all. Okay. But before I break this down and actually reveal my little system secrets to prevent this from happening with all the listeners, let me say this. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I did this in a previous podcast, and maybe it wasn't in the right light, or maybe you remember it. I don't know which one. Maybe you don't remember it because it wasn't in the right light, or maybe you do. And it brings me back to the beginning of this podcast. Okay. What pond are the fish in, and what's the perfect bait?
Mm.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So the pond, okay, is this. Remember, we talked about, and this is what I talked about in past podcasts. Remember the tripwire? Okay. This is where I talked about our core job as real estate entrepreneurs is to take the seller and turn them into an investor.
Mm.
Right? So we're taking somebody that owns an asset or a house, and they think they're going to sell it, and they have, some of them have a plan, like I need the 30 grand to go pay my daughter's education.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them right now, because of the environment, and this is what I want you to pay attention to, because you need to keep your finger on the pulse. You need to know what the economy is doing. So even though it's not necessarily true, and I'm not going to fight the reality of our sellers, but there is not a seller that you talk to that doesn't say the market's hot right now. And it is all over the country, no matter where you go. I was in a meetup the other night. I did my monthly meetup. I had people from Canada. I had people from Australia. I had people from Israel, and of course, guys from all over the country. And it was unanimous. Everybody talked about how real estate is at an all-time high. It's purely supply and demand.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what that tells me is this. Is the guy that's trying to sell his house because he's got 3 kids and 2 bedrooms is not the seller right now. Mm-hmm. What I'm finding is the seller is that guy or girl that has an extra house, or they have a rental property, or they have some investment property. And probably the biggest pool that you can fish in is accidental landlord. Mm. So back in 2008, 2009, they had a property, the market crashed, they couldn't sell it, so they rented it, and here it is 10 years later or 12 years later. And they still have it because they kind of got comfortable with it. They kind of got used to it. But now they're thinking, I just bought a subject to house last week. Okay. The girl bought it for $152,000. She's selling because she knows, because she rented it. She was an accidental landlord. She moved out, got divorced, all that kind of stuff. And she's selling it because she point blank told me, when I asked her the right questions, she point blank told me, if I don't sell it now, I'll never get my money back. Mm. She only owes 90-something thousand.
Yep.
But she's selling it now because she knows now is the time. So the average person, this is kind of like the stock market. You know, you got an inside trader. That's kind of us, like the inside trader guys, right? Mm-hmm. And then you have the general public. Now, it's all very well known that the inside trader is going to make the deal, and before it make the trades, and before it even hits public knowledge, the money's already been made.
Right.
That's how real estate is right now. So we're like kind of the inside traders, and the people selling houses are kind of like, once they do their deals, the money's already been made. You know, they're 6 months or 8 months too late.
Yeah.
And they don't know that. Okay. So my point is this tripwire. So first thing you got to take a look at is you got to take a look at that people that are selling right now, most of them are rental properties, or they have somebody in there. They're not living in those properties. So take that as an indicator. Right? The lists that are getting banged the hardest right now are properties that are not owned, because they're not trying to move out of their house and into another house. Because if you sold your house and you made $100,000, what good is it if you got to pay over $20,000 list price for the next house? You're in no better shape. Yeah. Right. So what the market is full of right now is full of people that are trying to get out of their mistakes from the last decline. Mm-hmm. Okay. So just pay attention to that as a list, right? So let me catch up to my notes here. So we take these sellers All right. And the tripwires already happen. You know, like, you know what a tripwire is, like, right? Like, you're in the jungle, you know, like, what is his name? Rambo sets up a tripwire.
Yeah.
Right? So you're in the jungle and there's this wire that you can't see, this clear wire. And when you hit it with your foot, it ignites the bomb and it blows up.
Yep.
Right. So that's what we're talking about. In marketing, that means it's the trigger that gets somebody to pull, to create an action, to do some action.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So the tripwire here is if we're trying to buy on rent to own, if we're trying to buy on monthly payments that we can pay you off, why are we going to talk to a for sale by owner, which is good to do, by the way. It's just a harder process. So if you're brand new, why put this barrier there? The guy's asking $200,000 for the house, right?
Yeah.
You come along and say, I'll give you $1,500 a month. Why would he want to do that?
Mm-hmm.
You have a lot of work to go from that point to show him that he can get more money, because he's using one of the 81% that's not qualified for a mortgage, right? Then you got to show him about the capital gains tax. You got to show him about all the payments. You got to educate him, which could take multiple visits to get him to flip into, oh, I really don't need the money. I'm better off to do this because I'll get more payments and my rate of return is better.
Yep.
Okay. Not that it can't be done, but it takes a little bit of work. Where if you called somebody that has a rental property and they're already collecting payments, right? And the tripwire's already hit. They've already, by force of the market or by actual decisions that they wanted to be an investor, are already taking payments, and they're satisfied with that. So you're going to now call those people up and say, hey, how about if I rent, but I manage the property and I buy it later? It's like a much more advantageous conversation, or much more of an advantage to their listening than the first one, right? So this is why I say that, we have hundreds of podcasts telling you how to do this stuff. So one of the lists or groups of people or pond that you want to fish in is the sellers who have made the decision to take payments already before you get there. You don't have to convert them into that, and not sellers that aren't looking to strip the equity out of the property and go do something else with it.
Right. People that don't need the cash right now.
Or you're actually, what you're looking for is you're looking for people that do want the cash. You're looking for people that want to pay off the college loans and people that want to buy a new car or go on vacation, because then you can whack them sons of bitches, and what you'll be left with is the prospects. So my VAs, no, seriously, I'm not doing that backwards. I'm not even joking around. My VAs, I teach them to look for suspects. Do you know why? Because it's a lot easier to teach them to look for a suspect, because there's more of them and they're easier to see. And then whatever's left, send them to me and I'll do my job.
Yeah.
Because I can't train the VA to convert them like me. So all I want them to do is look for the suspects and whack them, get rid of them, and then send me the rest and let me do my job. Because if I try to train my VA to do these things that I do to convert them, it'll take me forever. How long is it taking me to train you? How long does it take me to train an acquisition manager? How long does it take me to train my students? I mean, you could do deals right away, but I'm not talking about some of the stuff that we do behind the scenes. That takes a while. It takes practice.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure. That makes sense.
So I'm not going to have the VA, $4 VA, be that person. Okay, so that's the pond. Where do we go? Does that make sense, or am I like too profound?
No, it does. It does, because, the rentals.
Okay. So I want you to know that the podcast has not begun yet.
Okay.
But before we continue, we're going to talk about the bait. So we talked about the pond. Remember I said, remember the tripwire, or let me put this, the podcast brings us back to the beginning of this podcast and which pond to fish in and what's the perfect bait. So we just talked about what the pond is.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the bait, right? Now, I'm going to tell you this. Then I'm going to break it down on how we use it every day to do deals. Okay, I'm not being too intense, am I?
No, you're answering a question, because this is what people are wondering. I have my house to sell, but my son's looking for a house right now. He's getting married. They're looking for a house. They saved up some money. They couldn't be doing it at a more difficult time using an MLS. And I said, are you looking for sale by owners? No. Well, okay, well, let me look into that. And you and I had a little conversation yesterday, and you said, tune in today. So, of course, here I am. And the rentals make more sense, even if they buy it cash just for themselves to keep, or do whatever. That's just a better market to look at. They're off market, they're not on the market. And I went on Prop Street.
Just because of the time we're here, that we're in. That's all. That's all it is. And it'll change. In another year, it'll be different.
Yeah. I went on Prop Street and started looking. There's vacant ones. There's bank owned. I'll see what do I want here? I started poking around for him for more off market.
Good.
So, sure.
Right, so the guys online are telling me I'm okay too. So thanks, Desiree, and the rest of you. So, all right, here we go. So, I'm going to break it down so you can see how to use it in every deal that you do. Okay. So here's the secret under your nose.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Reach or interest for your offer from the seller gets blunted or terminated once they get their questions answered.
Mm-hmm.
Or think you can't solve their problem before you have a chance to educate them.
If they think they know what you're all about and they don't like it, you're gone before you get a chance to really explain what you're all about.
Right. Let me give you a quick example of this off script.
Uh-huh.
So I have been telling my students the thing to text people is, would you be willing to lease your property for a year or two without landlord obligations, and then I buy it?
Mm-hmm.
I made a mistake. Well, actually, at the time, it worked because the market was good for that.
Yeah.
But now I'm finding that's not good. Right? Because what's associated with the word lease?
Oh, landlord.
Yeah.
Obligations and problems.
Or not even that. So you say you're going to take away the landlord obligations. What it doesn't was, so that means they don't have to get up at 2:00 in the morning and unclog a toilet.
Yeah.
What it doesn't cover is we have a rent moratorium right now, which means you can't evict. So what happens if they don't pay? Right? And what happens if they damage the property? Right? So that's like a subconscious thought for some and a conscious thought for others. Right?
So they see that sentence and that's going on in their heads. They don't like the sentence, don't even answer.
I think you're right. So what happened is just what I said. Listen to what I'm saying now.
Mm-hmm.
Reach or interest. So they're reaching for more data, they're reaching for more information, they're reaching for what you have. Or interest for your offer gets blunted or terminated once they get their questions answered or think you can't solve their problem. So me saying I'm going to lease from them doesn't solve their problem.
Right. If they're already renting, right?
Especially if, even it doesn't matter. But yeah, if they're already renting, they're like, well, I already have landlord problems,
Yeah, I'm already leasing and they're holding their breath, hoping that it all holds together and some doesn't decide to stop paying.
So instead of sending the sentence, and I'm going to prematurely release something like this, and this is not the sentence because I haven't finished testing it, and I think I could critique it a little bit better, but it should be something like, could I pay you monthly payments until I can pay you later, until I get it paid off, or something like that? Can I pay you monthly payments?
How about if you throw the word guaranteed monthly payments in there?
Yeah. That's good.
Something like that. Because if that's what they're working about, right? If that's what they're worrying about, because there's no guarantee that people will pay. So that's a little adjective, huh? That's my 2 cents for today. Did you like it?
I wrote it down.
I reached for my notepad because I want to start making calls for my kid to buy him a house. Right. After all this training, I can do something good for my family besides myself, So yeah, I want that sentence when you got to figure it out.
So here's the point. So I'm going to read it again, and then I'm going to keep going through the podcast, right? So reach or interest for the offers gets blunted or terminated once they get their questions answered or think you can't solve their problem because you haven't had a chance to educate them, right?
Yeah.
Thus, one should gear the offers with total mystery or curiosity, so you can channel the seller along to a point that you feel they have all the information they need to make a logical yes or no answer. So you have to generate curiosity. And what I'm finding, right? So let me just keep reading because I think I'll cover all this. This mystery on what you can do for them that no one else is proposing is the glue that sticks the seller to you. They feel you are offering them something attractive or alluring, even enticing for the next stage of their life, or removing emotional pain they're having because of this piece of real estate. Inject, instill, and inspire your prospects with how wonderfully you can help them without tipping the apple cart too soon. And you will soon have sellers chasing you like a bear hunting for honey. Okay, so I'm going to read this again because if you're listening to the podcast, you should definitely pause and you should write this down because I am telling you this is huge. Good.
Bill, this sounds like bait.
Uh-huh.
That sounds like what bait is. It's a tiny bit of something that a fish or some animal would see and go, oh, that looks good.
That's why I put it under the bait section.
Yeah, but it's bait. It's a promise of maybe there's a meal there, but it's only a bite. But if you decide you don't like the bite, you don't get the meal.
Right. So
okay.
with creative real estate, we need to come under the agreement right now that as real estate entrepreneurs buying creative real estate with pretty houses, okay, our specialty is taking the person that has a house, the asset, and turning it into an investment property for them or an investment. Mm-hmm. That's what we do. We're taking the house from them, whether it's owner financing or a slot deal or whatever it may be. We're converting them from selling a house into becoming an investor, keeping their asset, reducing their cost to sell, reducing their tax liabilities, and increasing their cash flow. Right? Along with no landlord obligations. So basically, we're taking their asset and creating their mailbox to become an ATM machine. It's total 100% passive income for them because of us. And they don't know how to do that on their own. Okay? So that's what we do at the end of the day. What we have real estate investors or real estate entrepreneurs, not investors, real estate entrepreneurs that are looking to do creative real estate deals on pretty houses. That is what we are doing at the end of the day. Okay? So to do that, here's what happens. If you are getting people ghosting you or not responding or anything like that, then here's what you do. Okay, I'm going to just read this again and then we'll move on. I've got examples of what we can do here, right? So reach or interest for your offer gets blunted or terminated once they get their questions answered or think you can't solve their problems. So don't answer their questions with an offer too soon. Okay, I'm going to cover this in a minute. Thus, one should gear the offers with total mystery or curiosity so you can channel the sellers along to a point that you feel they have all the information they need to make a logical yes or no answer. The mystery on what you can do for them that no one else is proposing is the glue that sticks the seller to you. I'm going to give you examples of this in a couple minutes. the feel you are offering, so for the seller, the feel that you are offering something attractive or alluring, even enticing for the next stage of their life. So in other words, they're trying to get rid of this property because they want to move on. They have something else they want to do, right?
Yeah.
The next stage of life, or removing the emotional pain they're having because of the piece of real estate. So that whatever they're trying to do, whether it's emotional pain or they're trying to move on, this piece of real estate is in their way. Okay. So if you inject or instill and inspire your prospect with how wonderfully you can help them without tipping the apple cart too soon, you will have sellers chasing you like a bear chasing honey.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Now let's make this more practical, because that's a lot of theory. Okay. Opening call. The real name of this is, and you're going to enjoy this, Peter, because you're going to have a realization that most probably won't have when I get done with this.
Oh, I like the right names for things. Just the correct name is really important to me.
So really, the opening call, the real name for it, in my mind, and I've changed it so that I can make it more palatable for people, is really the contact step.
Yeah.
It's the contact step. We're contacting sellers, right? So there's two things that are important about the contact step. Okay. A, you text them. So each step, the part that I have made a mistake with is when we talk about opening call, closing call, and deal meeting, is it's the 30,000 foot view. I need to break it down because there's micro steps within each section that have to be done before you move on to the next section. And that's where the mistake is with my students, is they're moving on to the next section too quickly. And not getting the results or the end phenomenons of the previous step. And the people are ghosting them because they don't understand, or because they're tipping the apple cart and giving the offer too soon, or they're on the opening call trying to do a deal meeting with them, like trying to get them to do contracts. Right? And they spook them.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
It's too soon.
So the opening call, or the contact step, starts with you text them long enough to agree to have a phone conversation. No more. You don't try to give them an offer on text. You don't try to explain to them what a lease option is. You do not try to explain to them what a terms deal is, if you can help it.
Mm-hmm.
You need to make it provoking. You need to do exactly what I'm talking about. You need to offer them something attractive or alluring. Like, if I pay you top dollar, would you sell the house? Right?
And of course, they'll ask you how much. You don't answer. You don't put a number out too soon.
No, you say, let's get on the phone and talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't try to close them on text. So the text is, all you do is text them long enough to get them on a phone call. Which, by the way, I have found, if you're texting them more than 3 or 4 times, you are violating this formula. Okay? Because the text is just to let them know that you are a human being and you're not a scam and you want to get on the phone with them. Okay? Then the second part of this opening call, or as we're now calling it, the contact step, the phone call. So on the phone call, you need to figure out if they're willing to go to the next step. That's all you're trying to do, right? So the way you do that is you need to figure out if they want to receive top dollar, right? And they want to, and they're willing to take monthly payments until you can pay them off. Now, you're not trying to close them on that. That's another mistake my coaching clients are. They're like trying to close them on that. We're on the opening call, not the closing call. Don't try to close them. All you want to know is if they have just a little bit of curiosity and would be open to hearing how it works.
See, I wrote that down. I'm making my own notes, and I said, will they do, like, take money, take the top dollar into payments? And it's not what they'll do it if they'd like to learn more about it.
That's right. So are they willing to learn more, hear more? It's not will they do it, which is another mistake that my coaching clients are doing because they're trying to close them on the opening call. Can't do that. So all you're trying to do is find out, are you interested? Are you relatively curious? Do you have, go use some of the words I used before. You need to make it alluring. You need to make it interesting for them to go to the next step. You have to create that curiosity, that mystery. I wonder what he's going to do. How's he going to pay me top dollar?
Right. I wonder how much it is, but don't tell them. You can't yet. You need more information. Like, well, how much would you give me? Well, I don't know yet. I mean, I need more information from you.
Right.
Can we talk? Right. I mean, it's not that hard. You know, a lot of people avoid questions and answers all day long. So, and it's not to be evasive. It's, you know, are you throwing me a surprise birthday party? You have to learn how to not answer people and just get around it just to keep the conversation going. And
you know what, Peter? That is a phenomenal example. That's a phenomenal example of exactly what we're doing. Are you throwing me a surprise birthday party? And you need to keep the person interested enough to get them to the surprise birthday party. And then once they get there, they'll be like, oh, now I know why you were doing this and you were doing that and you were doing this. It's exactly the same way that we are doing this system. Is we're just getting them to come long enough so they can get to the surprise. And it's not really going to be a surprise, but the offer. It's the same exact phenomenon. That's a great example. Great example. Okay, so does this make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to back up a little bit. So number 2, the second step of the opening call or the contact step is a phone call figures out if they want top dollar and they're willing to take payments until you can pay them off.
And they're just learning more about it, not like
all you're trying to do is get their interest into going into a closing call so you can explain that. Okay. Now, if they say no to the payments, if they say no to the payments, okay, would be willing to give you a discount?
Right.
Not how much, not what are the numbers, but would you consider taking less money if we paid you all cash? Is that curious to a seller?
Yeah.
Is that like the bear chasing the honey? He's following the bees because he knows the bee is going to go back to the honey. Right? Don't tip the apple cart. Don't go too soon. That's like letting the cat out of the bag with your surprise party situation. Right? All you're trying to do is create curiosity to get them to the next step. Because remember, my whole system has always been about just do the next step.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So this conversation evolves exactly the way I said. So we're going to text them long enough to agree, which is usually 2 or 3 or 4 texts, to get on the phone so that we can then figure out first, are they willing to say, if they're willing to take top dollar if we make monthly payments until we can pay them off. If they say no to that, then we want to know, are you willing to take, if we give you cash, are you willing to take some sort of a discount? Or you you don't ask them how much you want to take, how much are they going to take? Are you willing to talk about that?
Right. And they'll say, oh, how much? And you can't. I mean, you can't really answer that one until you see the house, can you?
So that's my point. It's premature.
Yeah, I mean, monthly payments isn't too hard because you can figure out what rents are as long as it's a disaster when you see the property.
Why are you talking about that? Because we're nowhere near that right now.
Yeah, but I mean, when I think it's easier than like the actual cash. I'm just talking out loud.
So here's to your point. They'll say how much are the payments or how long. Those are the tripwires. Those are the triggers that you say, let me get you to the person that can give you those answers. End of call. The phenomenon, the end phenomenon of the call, the result, the product that you are trying to get has been fulfilled. Okay? To be rude, and sorry, ladies, for saying this, but orgasm arrived. Okay?
So
you're going to move on now.
Right. So when they start asking like for details, they're starting to become engaged.
There you go.
You're becoming
push
engaged.
Them on. Or if you're making the phone. That's right. Or if you're doing the phone call, which I'll talk about in a few minutes, if you're doing the phone call yourself, you then switch hats.
Mm-hmm.
So I talked about this in my coaching group the other night, and I'm going to do it now. It's not written down here, but I'm going to divert for 1 second, okay?
Sure.
So if you want to go from Connecticut to New York on the train is called Metro North.
Mm-hmm.
It goes multiple times a day. It's a commuter train, and that's how it works. So if I were to go to the train, if I wanted to go to New York this afternoon, I could drive 20 minutes from my house, and I can go to the train station. I park my car in the parking garage, and I go into the train station, and I have somebody sell me a ticket. So first of all, the parking attendant had a hat on called parking attendant.
Mm-hmm.
Then I go inside, and the guy that sold me the ticket has a hat on that says ticket salesperson.
Yep.
Right? Then I go out and I get on the train, and the engineer has a hat on that says I'm the driver.
Mm-hmm.
Then I sit down, and the person that takes my ticket has a hat on that says ticket collector.
Yep.
Then if I want food, I go to the caboose, and I have a person there's two people there. One person at the cash register says, I collect the money for the food and the orders. And then another person that has a hat on says, I cook the food.
So what are you getting at here, Bill?
So each one of these job descriptions we call hats, because that's why, because they're hats. They're like, what's under the hat, right? Mm-hmm. And it's the job description, right? So each one of these opening call and closing call, they have different hats. Like, for example, the texting has its own hat, just like the ticket salesperson does. And the phone caller that does the phone call has separate hats. Now, if I was to run that entire train myself, I would have to collect the guy's money at the parking lot. Then I'd have to run inside. I'd have to collect the ticket. Then I'd have to run outside, get the train started and get it moving, then go collect everybody's tickets, and then go cook the food in the back. Collect the money and cook the food in the back. Now, all this could be done. But just realize that when I'm in the parking garage, I'm wearing the hat of a parking attendant. When I go inside and I sit down behind the ticket booth, I'm wearing a different hat. I have different duties, different things, and different results to make sure that this happened correctly. Then when I go out and I'm being the engineer, it has a different hat. So that's why I'm talking about here. When you go from the opening call to the closing call, they have different hats. I'm not saying just like the railroad that I'm talking about, you could go from one job to another and do all of them, but just realize that once you've collected the money for the parking garage and you run inside to the train station and sit down to collect the money for the ticket, you're wearing a different hat. You have different duties. You talk to the client differently, right? And when you're collecting tickets, you're wearing a different hat. You do different things with that same client. You're wearing a different hat. It's like you're switching personas. Okay? So when you're going through this and doing this by yourself, you have to realize that you took off one hat and put on another hat. So when you're texting, you have one hat on. When you're on the phone making a phone call, you took off the texting hat, you put on a new hat for the phone caller. Then if you decide that you're going to do the closing call, you're going to put on the hat of the first thing, which I want to talk about next. So let's get into it. So I got this so far? We're good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, this is the first time you're telling me you're working on something, but this makes sense going just from a few texts to an actual phone call. And interesting enough, like, don't do too many texts because you're just not confronting talking to people.
Right.
Don't overdo it.
And you're generating the lack of alluring and mystery and curiosity. You're answering their questions, and it only ends with them ghosting you.
Yeah.
You're hurting them and you're hurting me. Another story, right? So I probably shouldn't tell this story, but my daughter called me a couple days ago. She's got a tenant that's giving them a hard time. So what happened was the first floor is complaining because there's a leak. So she's all blah, 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 right? So I said to her, here's what you should do. And I told her to go send somebody in to snake the pipes, because there's a girl on the second floor that supposedly that stays there once in a while and has this crazy hair, and she's getting hair down the drain. And I'm like, well, hair shouldn't stay. There's either something wrong with the trap or there's something in there.
Mm.
So she calls the Roto-Rooter guy, and he comes, and they pull out 2 toys out of the
Oh, Jesus.
right.
Yep.
So here's what happens: the tenant that has somebody putting stuff down the toilet stops communicating with her. She's been having trouble with them communicating to her.
Mm.
So I said to her, they've done a transgression. They've transgressed against you, because the first thing that happens when somebody transgresses against you is they withhold themselves. They don't talk.
Sure.
To you.
You don't want to talk. You screw up. You don't want to talk to somebody.
They want to hide, right?
Yeah.
So I said, you got to confront them. So I bashed my daughter, like, you got to call them, right?
Mm-hmm.
She calls me back an hour later. She goes, Dad, you're amazing. How do you know that? I'm like, experience. I'm not bragging, but it's like experience. She finally sent the right text, like I told her, the right text, and they immediately responded.
Mm.
And now they're getting together tomorrow, and they will have some communication and fix it. This is no different than your seller when you're talking to your seller. When they don't want to hear, what they don't like what you're having, or if they did something against you, or they'll stop communicating. You got to know how to provoke that communication to keep going. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Number 2. I'm not going to tell you what I said, Desiree. We'll talk about that on a coaching call.
Yeah, but whatever you said there won't apply to the next situation necessarily. You just have to try to read the situation and come up with something that makes some kind of sense.
You need to put, what I needed to do was put the tenant's ethics in. I can't let them transgress against me.
Mm-hmm.
I had to put their ethics in. Like,
mm-hmm.
Dude, I know you're doing this. So let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Right? Desiree says, we'll do this on a coaching call. She won't let me forget either. I'm going to have to show my text. I have to go back and figure out what I don't even remember what I told her, to be honest with you. Let's move on to the closing call. Okay?
Yeah.
So the closing call starts off slow. That's the first mistake most of my coaching clients do. They jump in the deep end and they start banging out offers. No.
Bill, I think you need a different name for this then. It's called the closing call. This probably needs another name. They try to close.
I called it the devastation and handling step.
Whoa. What?
The devastation and handle step.
Devastation. Oh, God.
Yeah. So what's their devastation? Why are they selling? What's their ruin? Why are they selling? Right? So you start off slow by working on the discovery stage first. Why are they selling now? You were the one that came up with this many years ago. Like, scan back in your mind and tell me when you decided to sell. Okay, good. Right before that, what happened? And you'll find out what the solution is. Now watch this, Peter.
Mm-hmm.
This is, and I'm proud of myself for actually articulating this so concisely. And that's why I'm so intense this morning, because this podcast will go on for a very long time. Because this is it. This is it. Okay? Now watch this. Ready? So you start off slow just by working on the discovery stage. Why are they selling now? Is it need or is it greed?
Oh, yeah.
That's the reason why we ask this question.
Mm-hmm.
Is it more important for you to get price or sell quickly? That's the need and greed question. That's your discovery question.
I wrote that down on one of my scripts. I stuck it in there, because you have to be careful when you say that, but you don't start but you just be ready when it comes up. Like, it's the perfect thing to say.
You don't have to do that anymore. You don't have to worry about when you say that. I'm telling you, when you start the closing call, one of the first things you do in the discovery stage, the first part of the closing call, is ask, what's more important to you, getting your price or selling quickly? Now watch this. You ready?
Okay. Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah.
Price is greed. They want their price, it's greed.
Sure.
If they sell quickly, it's need. Done. Yeah. One question, over, finished, done.
So does the question, when would you like to sell, is that important here too then?
We could ask that at the end of this, but very, very soon in the discovery call, in the closing call, we want to start off with discovery, and the perfect way to do discovery, because I have podcast after podcast and script after script on trying to figure out what is their situation.
Right.
Okay. I've broken it down to it's either need or greed.
Mm-hmm.
It's
So
one or the other.
you're like a computer. It's 0 or 1.
Right.
And really that's what we need, because if there's 5 things it could be, we can't think that good, and come up, ask this question, then that question, this one. But if it's just 2, and then we get that answer, hopefully the next thing might be 2-pronged, and we can get that done and just get to the end of it.
So the question is, you're correct. So the question is, what is more important to you, getting the price or selling quickly? Getting your price or selling quickly? If they say price, then it's greed. If they say selling quickly, then it's need.
All right.
Now you're ready to go on to the second portion of the closing call, or as I'm calling it, the devastating. What do they call it? The devastation and handle step.
Yep.
So now, the second thing you want to do is you can start to actually start thinking with one of the 7 strategies to work with. Is it need or is it greed? Now you can start. Let me finish. Please let me finish, because I know I'll answer your question.
No, it's not a question. I just realized that need or greed helps you figure out which.
It gives you a direction to go in. Like you said, it's 0 or 1. So it tells the computer what to do next, right? So now that you actually know that it's need or it's greed, you can start to work on one of the 7 strategies.
Mm-hmm.
And the key factor here is their equity or profit point. Are they being greedy and want it quick? Or can you pump up their tires and pay more to feed the greed glands? In that case, you're going to do like a lease option or owner finance or land contract or one of those.
Mm-hmm.
Because what you're doing is, and my Australian friend taught me this, you're pumping up their tires. In other words, you're boosting up their ego. You're pumping up their green glands, right? And he says, pumping up their tires. He says, Bill, I'm not pumping up your tires, Bill. And I'm like, that was funny.
and that's Australian, huh?
Yeah, it's Australian. It's Australian talk. I'm learning Australian talk now. Guys are teaching me some Hebrew, too, on my Israeli ones. They tell me what to say when they get excited. I don't remember the words, but they tell me them, right? So here's the point. Once you figure out, is it need or greed, now we need to use one of the 7 strategies to figure out what to do with their equity. Right? So the key factor there is the equity or the profit. So we already know that the mortgage has to be paid. So are we going to pay that monthly or are we going to pay that in full? We already know that has to be paid. We already know the loans have to be paid, the liens have to be paid, all that stuff. So what's motivating this seller to sell? Mm-hmm. It's either need or greed. So with the greed, we know it's money.
Yeah.
So we need to get right to the chase and say, okay, how much money did you want to make? When did you want it?
Yeah.
If it's greed.
Mm-hmm.
Right? See how you go down that path? It's like, so if it's greed, you say, how much money did you want to make? And when did you want it? Or what did you want it for? Nice and simple now. Isn't this simple?
Yeah. You got to make it this simple for us.
Oh, it's
sorry.
I feel like a dumbass when you say that. So like I'm somebody special. The only reason why I know this is because I just do it a lot.
No, and that's fine. We haven't, so we appreciate it. That's fine.
So if they want all their money, the way we would structure the deal, it's kind of opposite. The only way we can overpay them for the property, and the only way we can save them closing costs, and the only way we can save them the taxes, the capital gains tax and the cost of selling all that, is to do like a lease option, owner finance, land contract, or something like that. Because there's 2 ways to make money in real estate, right? Buy low, sell high with the equity, or cash flow. So in this particular case, when they're being greedy, they want all the equity. So we give them all their equity, but we have to make our money on cash flow.
Right.
Okay. Or the other, if they need relief from the emotional pain and don't care about the equity, right? Or will take less to relieve themselves quicker, we start talking about subject to and cash because they're willing to give us a discount. This is the reason why we don't ask these questions or get involved with them in the opening call, because we need to figure out this question. What's more important to you, your price or selling quickly? Because then we can figure out it's need or greed. And depending on whether it's need or greed, if it's greed, we're going to pump up their tires, right? And we're going to give them all the money, but we got to make payments. If it's need, then we can start talking about subject to deals. We can talk about cash deals. We can talk about doing a quick closing, and they're more motivated than the other guys. The first ones, we have to create the motivation. We have to turn them into an investor, and we need to pump up their greed glands. The second one is the one that we always look for, which is the motivated guy that's willing to just throw the keys at us while he's driving by.
Right.
Is this making sense?
Yeah. And you said in the need guy, the pain guy that really needs some emotional relief, the subject to or discounted cash works for him. And the guy who wants the cash, wants the equity, leaving us some cash flow, lease works okay with him. Did you say owner financing on him?
Yes.
Not.
Yes.
Owner financing on the first guy.
Yeah, so think of it this way. So there's only two ways to make money in real estate. So the guy that wants his price, we're going to give him his equity and make our money on cash flow. So we need to generate the cash flow. So we need 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, whatever we need for the cash flow, because the only way, suppose we're making $300 a month, right? We need to generate that over the course of time. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So Desiree's asking a question. Hang on. I don't think I understand the question. So Desiree says, Bill, have you ever bought a house subject to and then pay them the rest in payments? Yes. Okay, so she's saying that, like, if they owe $90,000 and want $110,000, how does that work? So I write a note. So if they owe $90,000 and they want $110,000, that means there's $20,000 difference. I would write a no interest, no payment note, and when I sell the house on the other end, they get their $20,000. Okay.
Now, would you say that when somebody is in the greed bucket, they're willing to wait?
Well, that's why we are in the discovery stage right now.
Yeah, but I'm just trying to see if there's a 1-2 punch with that. Like, if they're at greed, are they willing to wait? Because if they're not willing to wait, doesn't that put them a little more in the need? Like, I need to sell for something. Is that possible?
Yes, it's definitely possible to change them from greed to need or need to greed. But this is why you do this in the discovery stage, and these are the only phenomenons or the bullseyes that you're trying to hit. And it's taken me 5 years and 242 podcasts to explain this. And I hope this is it. This is what I'm hoping for. Maybe not, but.
Bill, if this is it, life as we know it ends, the universe clears up, and we all go to nirvana. So probably not.
Oh. Do they sell margaritas there and sell cigars?
They do. That's why it's nirvana.
That's why it's nirvana.
For you, it would be.
I'm getting tired of doing this. I might want to go there.
Yeah. For me, it looks a little different. But, yeah, it's rum and guitars.
Okay. So let's move on to so we got that, right?
Yeah.
So at this particular point, once we know this, we can start talking about the offer. Now, listen to me clearly, please. Please, please, please. I'm on my knees, hands together, begging and pleading you to do this. Please, please, please. Do not make an offer yet. Maybe I shouldn't put it that way. Do not make a solid offer. You still need to engage mystery and curiosity because we're not done yet.
Yeah.
So it goes something like this. So, Peter, if I were to pay you $200,000 and $1,600 a month, would that interest you? So the thing is, if I were to, or something like, imagine this. How about if I were to take over your monthly payments and give you 10 grand in cash? What do you think of that? What I'm doing is I'm testing. It's what we call in sales, taking their temperature. I'm testing. It's a litmus test. I'm testing them to see if they are willing to do that. I'm not making the offer. I'm just doing a suppose. Suppose we did this, or you think this might interest you? How about if we do that? Maybe we could do this. Would that be interest to you? And you'll start to notice when you hit the right one, the engagement will be good. They will go from, what are the words I want? They will go from, I can't think of it.
Well, to me, it's like they're politely listening.
Right. So they'll go from desire to interest.
Okay.
And the difference is when they're in desire, you're chasing them. Like they desire, like if this were to work, that would be good, but you got to do all the work. But when they're in interest, they do all the work and they chase you. So it's like you flip that switch at that point, because when you hit the right one, they go from like just desiring to this, like all of a sudden they're thinking, oh shit, this could work pretty good.
Yeah, but you can tell when somebody gets really, they start like, oh, they're happier they're listening to you. They're happier that you're talking.
Right.
They're happier that you're yapping your gums.
How does this work? Or how would this happen? Or how would you make the payments? Or, what happens if this happens? Or what happens? They start asking detailed questions. That's when you know they went from desire to interest. They start asking the detailed questions. They hit the tripwire.
Yeah. Well, that shows that they're engaged now. You hit the button. You did something right. You got their attention.
We don't make the offers. We insinuate the offers at the offer step. Once we hit that tripwire, we now change hats from closing call and go into the deal meeting. The deal meeting is where the offer is made in writing. But before we do that, which by the way, the other name for this, the behind the scenes name for the deal meeting is bringing about a legal understanding of the risk and reward. So you're going to bring about the legal understanding of the risk and reward to your seller. You're going to put it in writing. So in the offer step, you're just like, what if we did this, or what if we did that, or how about this? And then when the one indicates that they're like, oh, I like that one the best. You're giving them choices, not by giving them too many. You're going slow, one step at a time. You do one offer at a time, and then you move on to another one. The one that indicates will be the one that they'll start they'll start asking detailed questions. Then that's the one. You're still creating curiosity. You're still, that's right, Desiree. You make the deal meeting, you make the offer in the deal meeting. And she's saying in person, got it. So you don't have to do this in person. You could do this long distance too. You can do it in writing. Okay. So now we're going into the deal meeting. Okay. Before you give them the offer. Okay. So to be a perverted, and I get support tickets and bad reviews on this stuff, and I'm sorry, but we're still in foreplay, right? We're just starting to have we're starting to fool around a little bit, but we haven't had the big moment yet. We don't want to completely end off this cycle until we have everything we want. And we don't have everything we want. And here, Peter, is the most misunderstood, the most crashing thing that creates this podcast. It says, the name of the podcast is Why Rookies Grow or Die. Here's why they die. What have we not talked about yet? The property. Does the property qualify? They're asking $175,000, but it's only worth $150,000. We haven't talked about that. Why? Because it's out sequence to talk about it until now.
Mm-hmm.
When we are looking for deal hunting, or we're doing our deal hunting, all we're looking for in the opening call and the closing call is motivation. We're taking their temperature. It's a litmus test. Would you be willing to do this, or would you be willing to do that? Because the deal meeting is where the first thing you do is you qualify the property. Now you're going to either go out and look at the property, or you're going to do your due diligence on the property to see if it's actually worth what they say it's worth.
Mm-hmm.
Is it dysfunctional, and is it worth what they say it's worth? Is the neighborhood bad? However you do that, you can do that remotely. You can do that by going and looking at the property. You can do any of that. But that's the very first step of the deal meeting is, does this property fit into my program? And if it doesn't, why? And how can I adjust the maybe suppose offers that you gave? How can I adjust them?
Mm-hmm. Now, is that a good way to segue from the closing call to this? When you start
Yes,
putting like prospective offers, and the guy says, well, how much could you do? And could you really do this? Well, I don't really know until I need to look at the property to really make a firm offer. When can I see it?
right.
Would that work?
Right. It's exactly
Okay.
right.
Okay.
So you're going to say, how about if I take over your monthly payments? We put the deed in my name, titles. I mean, the deed goes in my name, the mortgage stays in your name. You explain all that, right? Desiree's blowing up the chat. She's having all kinds of realizations over there. She says, this is a great podcast. Thank you, Desiree.
Very practical.
Yeah. So here's what happens, right? So you're saying, well, I can put the deed in my name. The mortgage stays in your name. I'll make your monthly payments. I do all the landlording. Here's how we're going to sell it. Da 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 da. What do you think about that?
And that's that's in closing call.
That's in the closing call. You're proposing. What do you think about this? And the big question I use, which we never talk about, is that wouldn't keep you awake at night, would it?
Yeah, I heard you say that one.
So if it does, they're like, yeah, I don't think I could do that. Then you would move on. Okay, how about if we do a land contract, or how about if we do a wraparound mortgage? Whatever. That's what the other 241 podcasts are all about, right? I'm not here to teach that. This is when you do it. But all you're doing at this point is proposing it. You're keeping it at high level. You're not actually using real numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
This is like you're going, this is like, do you want burgers? Do you want pizza? Do you want Chinese? It's like that, right?
Right. Or, better example, you go to the doctor, right? Mm-hmm. And he pokes you and he says, how's that feel?
No.
How's that feel? He's like poking you. How's that feel? Does it hurt there? Does it hurt there? Does it hurt there?
Ow!
And he keeps poking. Ow! Right? Exactly. Then you know, oh, okay. Now you're ready to make a diagnosis.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yep.
Then you say to them, okay, I'll tell you what. Let me send you a letter of intent, and let's go further. Let's put it in writing, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
The negotiating's not over. We're just starting the negotiating. All we did was take their temperature of the litmus test to see which one they would be interested in, because that's the bait. But we had to keep them curious all along this whole process to get them up to this point. You see?
When you said the letter of intent, were you talking back in the closing step or when we got into the house?
No, not. Well, you're asking me the question, when do we switch hats? We go from closing call to deal meeting.
Yeah, so the letter of intent.
So let's say, well, one of the ways we can do it. I mean, if I have a subject to person or somebody wants to do a lease option and they're just ready to go, I tell them, let me send you a memorandum. And it's just a memorandum is just an agreement that we can go to contract because they're already closed. If they're closed, they're closed. You don't need to do much more. You need to now go into, because they're closed with the idea. They're not closed with the deal. They're closed with the concept and the idea of what we're going to do. That is the misnomer with my coaching clients, and it gets them in trouble because they call me up and say, I got a deal. No. Because if you remember a few podcasts ago, I talked about you got to talk about you got to talk to 200 people, and about 30% of them will say yes. And then you got to talk to, and it broke it down until we get to the deal meeting. We go into the deal meeting with 1 to 5 contracts and end up with 1 or 2. Why? Because the deals blow up at the contract stage, because They were not really understanding you. They had misunderstood words. Why we spend so much time on that for 3 podcasts on misunderstood words. You were giving them a seminar. They didn't get it. They thought they understood it until they get it in writing. So when you explained it in the closing call, they thought they got it. And then when you send it in writing, all of a sudden they didn't get it.
Yeah.
And you got to resell them on the idea.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so deal's not over once they say, yeah, I'll do subject to. My guy Sean tells me that all the time. We got to do a call at 2 o'clock, and I got to interrupt my entire day. This guy is totally motivated to do a subject to deal, and I'm on the phone with the guy 5 minutes, and he's like, no, I don't want to do that. Because he doesn't know, he's still learning how to pre-qualify.
Yeah.
Right? So, which, by the way, the only way to pre-qualify a seller, I was on the phone yesterday, a guy's asking me $325,000 for his house. He owed $195,000. You know what question I asked them? Which I don't advise you listeners do this unless you have experience. Would you be willing to sell the house for what you owe on it? $195,000. He went dead silent. Oh, no, I know can do that. Oh, the reason why I asked that question is not to buy the house for $195,000. What's the purpose of the question?
You're testing his motivation.
And the response. Well, how much do you want?
Mm-hmm.
It just cuts all the negotiating. You don't have to be a genius to do this. Would you be willing to sell the house for what you owe on it? Oh, no, I owe for $195,000. I can't sell for that. Okay, how much do you want? Well, and no disrespect, but he's Indian, and they're very difficult to negotiate with. But I have experience with these guys, and so he wants to negotiate. So I said to him, he's like, oh, well, and he doesn't answer me. He like literally did that. He was groaning and moaning, and I said, so let me ask you a question. You want like 25 grand? You want 50 grand? How much profit do you want? And he didn't know what to say. I like nailed him right to the corner. I cut the chase on the whole deal, and I just asked him directly. And literally 5 minutes later, I was off the phone with him.
Mm-hmm.
Because I found the least he would take is $80,000, but he wanted $112,000 profit, which is fine because if he wants all the equity, what do I have to try to do?
You need a cash flow. So
he's getting $2,000 a month, and it's costing him $2,050 a month in the mortgage and the HOA fees. So I point blank said to him, I'm not your guy. Here's the reason why. You're not allowing me to make any money. You're being pretty much a pig. I didn't tell him that, but you're being a pig and you're glomming the deal. So what do you need me for? See ya. Click.
Mm-hmm.
And he understood that because the way I told it to him. But it's because I did exactly what I'm telling you right now. The deal meeting. The first thing you do on the deal meeting is you inspect the property, make sure it fits your problem, and if not, you pass or adjust the price.
I didn't understand something. You said make sure it fits your problem.
Yeah. I'm sorry, it fits your program. I'm sorry. It fits your program.
Okay. Yeah. So whatever you offer, it has to fit what you're trying to do.
So if he's asking for 10 grand down and you don't have 10 grand down, then don't make that offer. Make him a lease option offer, and tell him that you're going to get your down payment money from your tenant, and that you plan on getting 10 grand from them. You'll split it with him or give him 2,500, but you can't give him 10 grand because all you're doing is getting the money from your buyer, and the buyer won't give you 20 grand like he's asking.
Yep.
Owner financing is the best. Sean's doing this now. He was telling me last night. I love those words, Bill. Mm-hmm. Guy's asking $375,000 for a house on Lake Pocatipog in East Hampton. $375,000. Zillow says it's worth $275,000. He says Zillow's wrong. Okay, no problem. It's off by $100,000. Okay, no. They're selling for $550,000 on the lake. Okay, well, it's not showing that anywhere else. But okay, let's play along. How much do you want? I'll do owner financing. Okay, how much? $375,000, 20% down, 5% interest.
What is he, a bank?
So Sean said to him, why would I want to do that when I can go get a loan at 3% down and 3% interest? Why would I want to give you 20% down and 5% interest? The guy didn't know what to say because he's right. Why would I want to do that? Mm-hmm. You think I'm not qualified? Is that what you think? You think that I don't have the money? I mean, what is the deal? No. You can't let them. You can't put them on a pedestal like I talk about and let him look down on you like that. You can't do that because that's what he was doing. He was wanting me to put him on a pedestal so he could look down on me thinking that I don't have the money and I can't go to the bank. Mm-hmm. Even if I couldn't go to the bank, I wouldn't let them run me over like that.
Yep.
Okay. So the first step is to qualify the property to see if it fits in your program. This step is the most abused, like I said, often because often people put this in step 1. Like when they're doing the texting or they're doing the opening call, they're trying to talk about the price of the house. Okay?
Yeah. Bill, we both know that there's guys out there who teach to do that and close it on the phone right off the bat.
Yeah.
And we both know that everybody gets all excited and then they show up at the house and they say no.
Right.
So it doesn't pay to get all excited to get no. Sorry. Patience, folks.
The opening call and closing call wrapped up together has only one purpose of testing their willingness and motivation. So at the end of the day, this is very profound, and I told this to you yesterday, but I'm going to give you my life as a real estate investor, as a real estate entrepreneur in a nutshell right now. This is me, Bill Hawthorne, personally.
Okay.
I know that every deal I do, I put life into it. I pour life into it. I invest my life. In other words, I make it alive. I make it happen. I'm the prime starter. I keep it going because when I leave, the deal falls apart. It's kind of like I had a conversation, not to get religious, but I had a conversation with my daughter a long time ago, my youngest daughter, who thinks that she needs evidence for everything. And she's not sure she believes in God and spirits. Yeah. So I said to her, Emma, you can believe whatever you want, but I have a question for you. What's the difference between a person that walks around and a person that's in a coffin? And my thought was, the spirit is there or it's not. That's it.
Bill, that's just not a thought. I swear to God, I've got an old dictionary. I can pull it off the shelf right now. You look up death, and it correctly says spirit leaves the body.
Right. So
no one say a fact of dying, you're not around. It's very specific. It said that. Now you can believe it or not, but it's in a dictionary. At least somebody believed it.
So this is my point: is I decide whether I'm going to put life into the deal or I'm going to take life out of the deal. I decide that in my opening call. And I decide if I'm going to stay there and use my talent and my personality and my resources to help the seller get to the finish line. This is why I constantly tell you people on this podcast that just listening to these podcasts gives you more knowledge than the average investor, average person. So when you go to visit them, you have more knowledge than the average person. There are not many people, like a few of you are on this, like for sure, Desiree, she's here every week, right? There's people that are here all the time, listening all the time. Just listening, you have more knowledge than the common person about real estate because you're just listening to our experiences, right?
But to me, that translates to me not more ways to get a deal or get the guy to do what you want. It's more ways to help the other guy to get something done so that you can get something done. It's more opportunities. It's a bigger toolbox.
So to me, that's what I decide. Am I gonna use my resources and my energy and my attention? In other words, is this deal warranting enough for me to do that? Because believe me, Peter, I get deals offered to me all the time. I can't tell you how many times a month I get people from the podcast or from other places, the meetups, that offer to come work for me for free just so I can teach them. And they
Bill, sounds familiar.
Yeah, and you're the only one that I've done it with. In fact, I'm doing it with Sean right now, but he's been dynamite. But I get that offer a lot. I don't do it because it's distracting. It's noise. It develops traffic for me that I don't want. It's annoying to me. I can't make money when I'm doing that. It costs me too much money to do that.
Yeah.
Because if I put life into that person, it's like using gasoline in a car. You know what I mean? It's like, not that I can run out of life, because I'm not going to do that. Someday I will. When they put me under the ground, I'll move on and do something else. But the point is that while I'm here, I decide what deals to put life into and what deals not to put life into. And then when I want to put life into the deal and they prove to me like they're motivated and they really want my help, then I pour it on like a fire hose.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't, then I shut it off just like a fire hose. And it's either on or it's off. And people know that.
And you know what the difference is? You know what the difference is on that? Sorry to cut you off there, but we have a little lag in the video. If you're not getting what Bill's saying about putting life in, think of the opposite. When you say to yourself, man, these deals are sucking the life out of me. We talk about that sometimes because you put life into something where there's nothing to put, or you're not doing it right. And you just invested like your heart and soul into something that didn't go anywhere. And you feel you lost that, and you feel a little empty inside, or like a little annoyed. So you want to make a decision when you should put your energy in your life, or don't. Make sure it isn't a waste of time. It's not a suspect.
Right. So that's all good. Let me just say this, because I could do a whole podcast just on this, and I don't want to. But I have the saying, where attention goes, energy flow, result shows. So just think of it this way. If you have a mental image picture of making $1 million and you pour life into that mental image picture, what do you think you're going to get?
You might get 100,000.
Yeah, you'll get 1 million if you do it enough, right? Or if you're thinking to yourself, I don't feel good today, and you put your attention on that and you pour life into that thought, what are you going to get? More sick.
Mm-hmm.
So pay attention to what you're putting your attention on and pouring life into, because it happens every day. If you're afraid that you're going to get into a car accident because it's snowing, then guess what you're going to get? You're going to pour life into that idea, and you're going to get into a car accident because it's going to develop the way you want it to develop. Okay, enough of that. Second part of the deal meeting, doing your contracts and reselling your deal to the seller. This is where you put the rubber to the road and really test your seller's true intention. Okay, now watch this, Peter. And we're going to be an hour and a half today on this, because we're already an hour 40 minutes in, and I still have 2 more pages to go. Okay, so
yeah.
and I'm okay with that. I'm sorry if I'm too long for some people, but you can listen to it in parts, because I really feel like this is major important. Okay, so this is where the rubber meets the road. Now watch this, Peter. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
The word intend it's somebody's purpose, or what their objective is, or their plan or desire, or the outcome that they want. Intend is, at this point, a hypothetical thought. It's just your imagination on overdrive.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Add the suffix tion, shun. On intend, you get intention.
Mm-hmm.
When you add the word shun, or the suffix tion on the word intend, it becomes intention. And intention, the shun, means action or results. So when I intend to make $1 million, I'm just dreaming about it. That's the desire. It's the desire.
Mm-hmm.
It's the wish. Well, if it happens, I would really like that. But if my intention is to make $1 million, not only am I going to think about it, I'm going to pour life into it, like we were just talking about, and there's going to be action. Okay?
Yep.
So the deal meeting requires written agreements with possible repercussions. Like, in other words, I'm going to put the mortgage in your name. I'm going to keep the mortgage in your name. Deed's going to go in my name. Here are the possible repercussions. So they know both sides. Don't hide that, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is intended to get action for what they really want. It's the intention. So in the closing call, we talked about what they intended to do. In the deal meeting, we're doing the intention. We're really finding out what their intention is because we're giving it to them in writing, and they have to now prove it with their actions. They have to prove to us that they are interested and they are going to go through with this, because we're not going any further until we get something in writing. And I don't care what it is. It could be a napkin saying, I promise to sell you my house. Just the fact that they put their signature on it means that they're binding themselves to their intended ideas. They're taking their imagination or what they think they're going to get, and they're putting it into the physical universe, and they're doing action. Right?
Yeah.
So in essence, until now, you've been playing a cat and mouse chase with your seller.
Mind game.
Yeah. It was the investor's mind deal or the seller's mind deal until now. But you don't want to propose marriage before the date. That spooks them the most, which is what happens with most of my students, why they get ghosted, because they're not doing these things. And it takes me more time to explain this than actually do this, because I'm breaking down the theory of it. But right? So you want to count on your seller, right? Actually, think of it this way. You're going to court your seller, and your seller's going to court you. Right?
Sure.
Until you get to the deal meeting stage where you're going to actually qualify the house, and you're going to send them something in writing. And then that's when you're making the offer. That's the offer. So when I talked about in so many podcasts before, if you're a premature offer maker, you're going to end up with a lot of people ghosting you, and you're going to be one of those people. And I have some of those clients, those coaching clients, that go through 200 for sale by owners and don't have a good conversation with them. It's because they're doing this. It's prematureness. They're not cultivating mystery and curiosity. They're not doing the things that we talked about all day today. Okay.
Bill, I'm thinking of, my own phone calls and what happens to me when I'm talking to seller. So I don't know if you've thought about this or if it's a thing, but I know when, and you know this, you're on the phone with somebody, they start asking questions, and which puts you in the next stage where they might not be ready to go. So I'm taking a wild guess that people may be making the mistake of answering the question before they should, and needing to do it's a surprise birthday, and just to be polite and just answer everybody's questions like you're helping them.
You don't.
Well, I can't really give you an answer that right yet. I need a little more information. Something that's
the segue right there. I need more information before I can answer that question.
So you have to decide if this should be discussed now, not the other person, because they don't know the process. You have to know the process and guide it. So you have to say no sometimes. Yep. And if you're not sure how to do that, have a conversation with your wife. If there's anything like mine, you'll know how to say no.
Stop, Peter. So, the old saying, I don't know who wrote this because I didn't look it up, but you plan the work and then work the plan.
No, I don't know if I've heard that. Well, John Lennon said something, life has happened to you as you're making plans.
Yeah.
Something in that ballpark, right?
So I don't know who said it, but you plan the work and then you work the plan. Mm-hmm. So here's what we've done is we've planned the work. I've taught you how to do the system. Mm-hmm. Now you need to work the plan. So you need to work the system the correct way. And what's been happening in my coaching groups is they're not working the system the way I explained today.
So maybe we're letting the sellers take over the conversation and run it instead of us running the conversation in correct sequence and holding off.
Right. So the point is that until I explained it today, the way we explained it, you weren't even aware that all those steps were in there and when you should change hats.
Yeah.
From the parking lot hat to the ticket salesman to the engineer, you didn't know when you were changing hats. You didn't know what those trigger points were.
Right.
You didn't know how to go from one to the other. And I'm hoping today I did that. All right. So we're technically over with the podcast, but I'm going to ramble because we're an hour 44 minutes in, and I'm going to spend another 5 more minutes giving you a surprise.
I'm going to sit quietly then and let you go for it.
So here are some of the things that I say to generate like curiosity or to keep things moving. And these are not what you've heard in the past.
All right.
So here you go. And you're going to have to replay this podcast because I'm not going to go slow so you can write them down. I'm just going to rattle them off.
Okay.
And Peter, if you want this, I can send you a picture of the notes I'm reading. Okay.
Sure.
Here we go. Imagine your house is sold and closed. What do you envision getting from it? If you have a magic wand over your deal, what would you want for? Or what would you wish for? I'm sorry, what would you wish for?
Mm.
Could you imagine selling without fees? If you could get your asking price, what would that do for you and your family? How do you want this deal to start and end? That's a great question. How do you want this deal to start and end? What have you done to try to sell so far?
I like that one.
How do you feel I can most effectively help you? What did it first, this is your question. When did it first occur to you want to sell? And then ask them what was going on in their life at that point or right before then, like we said earlier. What did you expect from talking to me today? And this is a big bomb.
Mm-hmm.
They tell you what they want. Like, I want $300,000 and I want it by the end of the week. You ask them this. What could go wrong with that plan?
What could go wrong with that plan? Oh, geez.
Okay.
I thought you were going to say, well, what happens if it does? What are you going to do if it doesn't happen? I thought you were going to throw that one in. You got that anywhere? What's going to happen?
I mean, these are just random questions. I wrote 10 of them down. My point is every one of these questions generates that curiosity, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It generates, it's a no answer. Like it puts the onus back on them. Because you made a valid point that I didn't think of is when they ask a question, they're putting the onus on us to give them an answer.
Yeah.
Right. So like what was the question you asked about the price? What was that question you asked earlier?
Earlier?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like in the beginning call, they're asking you how much would you offer or something like that.
Yeah. Like, how much could you pay?
Okay. So imagine if your house was sold and closed. What were you expecting?
Right, because it's not the selling price that's really important. It's what part of that do they get?
Right.
What they expect. And if they haven't thought of that, you got a whole conversation. Well, I want 300,000. Okay, but are you getting all the 300,000 when it's over?
So,
well, I guess not.
Let's just do that. So you say I want 300,000. Right? Okay, what could go wrong in the transaction if you did that?
Well, I guess they could back out. If it's like all at once, that doesn't. I mean, be great, but that doesn't happen often. If somebody says that, chances are they're full of it, and it's not going to happen, then I'm kind of disappointed.
Then what are you going to do?
Wait.
See how the questions are? I haven't answered one of your questions.
Mm-hmm.
Then what are you going to do? But now I kind of got you on the couch, and I'm the the guy on the chair taking notes.
Well, I guess the thought that I'm getting from this is, what's more important, that you give the guy a bunch of answers, or he gives you a bunch of information so you can help the guy?
Right.
So asking questions, I've been actually trying to ask more questions in life. I probably said this a couple of times, because that's the best counselors in the world. Ask questions, not just give people their opinions of their lives. They ask questions. And the best guides are like, well, blah, blah, blah. Well, what do you think? What do you want? And it just elicits your own understanding of yourself or the other guy, so you know what you're looking for, just to get to the bottom of what the hell you're thinking. Because you don't know what you're thinking half the time yourself. You got to work it through. Asking questions will give you more information to help somebody. Ask.
Correct. Very correct. Okay, bottom line to end off with today, the most profound, under your nose, hidden secret to do deals is this: create a mystery or closed book on what you can actually do for the seller until you educate them enough and understand enough. to actually make the correct decision. So you just got to keep them in curiosity or mystery until they've got enough data and you have enough data and you guys can come to an agreement together. That will keep them stuck to you like glue. The quickest way, now pay attention to this is my punchline. The quickest way to kill a seller's willingness to work with you or breathe life into your deal is they don't understand. You've allowed them to not understand. For the seller to decide, they must understand. And mystery or curiosity of what they could do keeps pulling them along enough so they understand and make decisions based on an equal ground that you're on. I'll read that again. The quickest way to kill a seller's willingness to work with you or breathe life into your deal if they don't understand. It severs the reach, their reach. It blunts their reach. It terminates their reach. If they don't understand, they just say no. But before the seller can decide, they must understand. And the mystery or curiosity, which everybody has, that's like one of our most innate things as a human being is mystery or curiosity. And the mystery or curiosity of what they could do with you pulls them along enough so that they can understand and make decisions based on an equal ground that you're on. So now you and the seller can speak turkey because you're both on the same ground. You're on the same playing field now, right? You don't have a quarterback on an NFL, like you're the quarterback on an NFL football team, and you're talking to a quarterback that's on a high school team. You can't do that. You both have to be on the same field. You have to both be either high school quarterbacks or NFL quarterbacks. You got to be on the same playing field. And that's the only way you can make deals. And what happens is there's too much premature offer making. There's too much, like you said, answering questions before you should answer those questions. And it causes a premature decision because the person really doesn't understand. Thank you for listening listening to me today. And Peter, don't forget that when you go into your description, there's a link in there with a bunch of free documents and a bunch of stuff that you can get. You can also go in there and listen to the podcast on the free stuff page. There's also a free course there. It's called Creative Real Estate Deal Making 101. It's right on the front page to the left of the pretty girl with the money. Just put your name and email address in there. And I have about a 4-hour course that you can do that teaches you all the 7 strategies. You know, there's all the different ways that I make money and all the different strategies. And there's lots of information there for free. So go check it out. Whew. We're done, Peter. Thank you.
On behalf of myself and all the other rookies and rookettes, we sincerely appreciate and thank you for the podcast. It was extremely practical.
Good.
Extremely practical. From the soup to nuts, the important parts, what the hell to say and what the hell to listen to.
Desiree said the best thing.
What?
That's biblical.
Good one. Good one, Desiree.
All right, guys, over and out. We'll talk to you next week. Enjoy your week and go out and get in some houses, talk to some sellers. Woo, woo.
Beep, beep.